Wake Forest is ranked ahead of us in every category, offensively, defensively, all the Ken Palm stuff. Coach Forbes has done a great job assembling a roster. I think they are playing the way that he would like to play on both ends of the floor. Very talented players. Coach was Coach of the Year, had the Player of the Year, but they're much more than just the Player of the Year. Our staff so far has done a really good job in preparing for the opponent, but they cause a lot of problems on both ends, and we'll have to be better than we have been in a long time to have a chance to win. They're really, really good.
Does a tournament like this give you a chance to maybe put a guy like Javonte in a little bit more and test him out? Because it seems like he's been able to earn some more minutes and he's been able to show something a little bit more than maybe he has at other times in the season.
Yeah, I think, he started the first 9 games and was okay. And shortly thereafter, when we got back home, we started doing the individual workouts with our bigs 4 days a week. And each of those guys, JB especially, Aaron, Ethan, even Henry, what we call our bigs, I think there's been a steady improvement with those guys. And because of certain matchups, JB's impact has been distinct. And I also think we kind of utilize Aaron in a different way, but in some regards, he's had the same level of impact, even though it may not show statistically. But I think as the season has played itself out, Devin has done an outstanding job of utilizing Ethan's strengths the right way, JB's the right way, Aaron's the right way. And when we made the personnel shift, I think that's really benefited Henry. But I think some of the residue of those 4 guys has actually helped our guards. It's given them better creases to drive. It's opened the floor more. And so their continual improvement has actually helped our entire roster.
Have you stayed in contact at all with Steve Forbes? And just what's it going to be like playing with someone you used to coach alongside?
Yeah, it's dog years when you do this, but I'm real close with Coach. He's one of my favorite people in the world. I knew him, obviously, before we both came to A&M. We were both here the same amount of time and spent an inordinate amount of hours together, and then have stayed very close no matter where he's been. He went to Tennessee, and then he was the head coach in junior college, won a national championship, worked for Greg Marshall at Wichita State when they were rolling, became the head coach maybe an hour and a half away from Blacksburg at East Tennessee, and then obviously he's in his second year at Wake. I don't have a lot of friends, particularly basketball coaching friends, but he's for sure one of them. And we're really happy for the success that he has had. He's done things at every place that he has been that have never been done before. And he's already on that track in a very short amount of time at Wake Forest.
Buzz, is it possible for these guys to surprise you anymore with what they've been doing over the last 3 weeks or so?
I'm very thankful for all that has transpired. And I think when this is over, I'll look back and appreciate it even more. And in the right tone of voice, not in a greedy way, I just want us to keep playing because I want to continue to be around them. They are incredibly close off the floor, and as you've heard me say before, as time has transpired, that closeness off the floor, you've been able to see it on the floor. And they play for one another. They love one another. They really care about one another. They know the families of one another. And I think in 2022, that's really hard to do. where there's a group of unselfish players who are accepting of hard coaching, who want to do what's right for the program / the institution, and they're all pulling in the same direction. And I think the same is true with our staff. I just, it's rarefied air that we are breathing, and there's a lot to learn from it, but I don't think that I would be surprised, just because I have such great belief in the fabric of who they are.
Kind of piggybacking off the first question, how much of this extra time that you get to have with practicing games, then moving forward with the program, is bolstering that depth at the post position, that the big key to that next step in the program?
Well, early on, I don't know that you want to start the season being one of the youngest teams in the country, and I don't know that you want to be one of the least experienced teams together in the country. I guess on the flip side of that, once you endure all of that, the minutes that they're playing and the minutes that they are playing together, I think you've seen a crescendo, and as long as they're the right ones, it's a positive. And I think, similar to what I said to Olin, that along with this, that combination, I mean, some of those guys are getting incredible experience that you can't buy at a very early part of their career. And, I remember as an assistant, coaches that I worked for are always saying, you're only as good as your returning players. And then I remember as a head coach throughout my career, head coaches always saying, we want to get old and stay old. And then obviously the transfer portal has kind of shifted maybe philosophical beliefs on those two thoughts. But as I mentioned to you guys early, when we knew the portal was going to come into effect, we wanted to, as best we could, recruit the right people that fit our roster, who could have success here, that were young in their career. Because I think over time, you could possibly have stability with your roster as the years unfold, as long as those decisions were the right decisions. And I'm not saying they were right. That's not what I'm saying. But I was so bent on that's the way that I thought we should do it at Texas A&M that I had multiple conversations with Ross and J-Mo. Like, for how we operate, I think that that's best, because it's the cumulative effect and the compound interest, so to say, that over time, I believe that decision to be right. And the experience that Henry's getting as a COVID freshman, the experience that Mo and Four are getting as true freshmen, the ability that whatever you call JB, is he a redshirt freshman or COVID freshman or however you want to say that, I think that's good. And you can talk about H, you can talk about Haas, you can talk about Dre. Are they going to use their extra year when the time comes to make that decision? But as youthful as we are and as inexperienced as we were in minutes together, I mean, tomorrow will be our 38th game. And very rarely I've never played 38 games in my head coaching career in a season. So it's not just the games. It's the games, it's the experience that comes from those games, it's the practices, it's the film room, it's the weight room, it's the individual workouts. We're still in season. And so we still get 20 hours a week of work. And so, yes, I do think that I hope that there is some traction and momentum based on what has transpired over the last few weeks.
Coach, just the way the fans kind of rallied around this,
It's been a lot of fun.
especially since y'all got back from Tampa and what you've accomplished to this point in these past few weeks and what you can accomplish. How much of a boost do you think that can, especially with what you have ahead of you, can give this program a boost heading into the start of next season, people being plugged in right away?
Yeah, I think there's been a little bit of kind of a groundswell. You know, when we got back from Tampa, there were hundreds of people that were out here. And 2 weeks before, when we got back from Ole Miss, there were 6 people out there that greeted us for the first time since we've been here. And then we got back from Alabama a few days later, and there were 9 people. And then we get back from Tampa, and there's hundreds of people. And then for Ross to make the decision to allow everybody access to the games, I don't know how to check my email, but I always tell my assistant, if you think I would want to read it, print it out so I can read it. You know, I've gotten a lot of positive emails from people that have been able, maybe that wouldn't have necessarily had the opportunity to come to the game, to be able to come to the game. I think our kids are so good with young children. After a game, they're very giving of their time and their energy. So, yeah, I think all of that stuff is positive.
What would it mean for the program to make it to New York?
They've never done it as far as I know. I think Texas A&M's been in the NIT 7 times. One of those 7, no, I think that's incorrect. I studied that on Sunday. I think 7 times they've been to the NIT, but I'm fairly certain they've never gotten to the Final Four. So without answering the question or dodging the question, I would love to go to New York. I've had the opportunity to coach at the Garden. I think that would be a great experience for our guys. All of the things that come with New York, I think, would be a lifetime experience for them. But if we get to New York, that means we won another game. And I think that would be our 26th win with a chance to win 2 more. And that also means that we get to continue to be together and we continue to work and prep. And so, yeah, I think it would be huge.
Anything else, Coach?
Feedback, just kind of thoughts on Wake Forest and what you've seen from them.
Yeah. I think Forbes has probably made a portion of his career being known as a defensive-minded coach. And I would agree with that. But I think sometimes when coaches are labeled one way or another, that perception never dies. Maybe it should, maybe it shouldn't. But they're really sound defensively, very sound. But they do some really good things offensively. And I think categorically speaking, good coaches get their guys to play together. Good coaches get their guys to play with an IQ. And good coaches get their guys to compete at a level maybe above what you would think. And I think that's why a coach is so good. I think his team is defensive-minded, but they do some really sound things that put you in a quandary offensively. But I think the reason that they've won 25 games in his second season is they play really hard. They play with a high IQ, and you can tell that they play for one another.
Thanks, Coach.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.